Welcome to Stephen AI TV.
Right, let's just get straight into the muck. Picture this, a mother of three, already has 10 convictions to her name. She gets caught dead to rights on CCTV, stealing from her job. So what do you think the sentence is? Let's dive into the docket for this week's Scumbags of the Week and see if the answer surprises you. Though I have a feeling it probably won't. So, our main story this week, it comes out of RD. And honestly, it's a real head-scratcher. We're going to be talking about Pauline O'Neill. And this case, well, it really makes you wonder what on earth is going on with the idea of justice and second chances. Okay, so let's start with the cold, hard number, €700. That is the amount of cash Pauline O'Neill, who worked at the Lidl on the Dublin Road in Ardee, helped herself to, straight from the till. Seems like a pretty open and shut case of workplace theft, right? Well, you'd think so. But in court, you get two very, very different stories. On the one hand, you have her excuse, some old drugs debt, and she's getting threatening texts from a fella over in Spain. And on the other hand, you've got the reality. This is a woman with 10 previous convictions. Oh, and the whole thing, the whole shebang, was caught on camera, right down to her handing the cash off to a man waiting outside. It's kind of hard to argue with that, isn't it? Now look, to be fair, and we always try to be fair here, there were a few things in her favor. She owned up to it completely with the Gardaí, no messing about. She's also done 20 weeks of treatment at Kuanwere, and that's no small thing, that's a serious commitment. And it was pointed out that none of her 10 previous convictions were actually for theft. So, maybe she is trying to sort her life out. And here, folks, is the punchline. Judge Nicola Andrews says, and I quote, "I will give her a chance. The case gets adjourned, and if she keeps her nose clean, she'll get the Probation Act." So, for our first case this week, a telling off and a pat on the head for stealing 700 quid with 10 priors. Go on, make that make sense. Right, let's move on. We've seen the cost to a business. Now let's talk about the cost to a family. Because a grandmother in Dundalk has just had to put her life savings on the line. So, what are we talking about? We're talking about €8,000. That's the alleged value of the cannabis and cocaine the Gardaí found in the home of Brendan Duffy, a roofer from Hackballs Cross. $8,000 worth of gear. That's a decent bit of business. But you know what? That €8,000 is nothing compared to this number. €20,000. That's the staggering amount his grandmother had to come up with for his bail. Can you just imagine getting that phone call? "Hi, Anon. Yeah, I've been lifted and I need you to find 20 grand so I can come home." That is the real price of the drug trade. It's not paid by these lads, it's paid by their families. So while his poor grandmother's 20 grand is hanging in the balance, he's out walking around. He does have some pretty strict conditions, mind you. He has to sign on every single day, be home by 11, give up his passport, and stay away from all intoxicants. So the system basically puts all the financial risk on an old woman and gives the accused a list of rules to follow. We'll see how that plays out, won't we? Okay, let's shift gears now. We're going from the courts to the council, to a story of such ridiculous bureaucratic madness on Racecourse Road that you'll be pulling your hair out. It seems the privacy of some scumbag with a bin bag is more important than the entire community's quality of life. The problem is just it's infuriatingly simple. First, Louth County Council decides to remove the CCTV cameras from the area. And second, what do you think happens next? Of course, the illegal dumping starts right back up again. Local councillors are calling it galling, and you can see why. It's a wound they inflicted on themselves. And here is the official reason why. You're going to love this. When they were asked about maybe putting up some hidden cameras to catch these dumpers in the act, a council official said covert CCTV is a last resort. Why? Because of the much higher bar in privacy impact assessments. Just let that sink in for a second. They're more worried about the privacy rights of the people throwing dirty nappies on the side of the road. You could not make this up. And speaking of bizarre logic, let's jump back to the courts for another quick one. Dariush Pak, a carpenter, gets pulled over for speeding in Dundalk. He's acting extremely nervous. So the Gardaís search his car, and what do they find? An extendable baton. And the consequence for driving around with a weapon? A €250 fine. So there you have it. For less than the price of a decent telly, you too can be armed in your car in Dundalk. Good to know. And while we're on the subject of consequences, or lack thereof, let's talk about the fuel protesters. They were charged with dangerous driving for that slow protest on M1. They got a €300 bond, and one of them, just a 19-year-old from Armagh, is now banned from the entire county of Louth as part of his bail. They actually left the court to applause. Just think about that contrast. You protest on a road, you get banned from a county. You steal from your boss, you get a second chance. Hey, remember the Probation Act, that little get-out-of-jail-free card we saw in our first story? Well, just as a quick reminder, it means you're found guilty, but nah, it doesn't actually go on your record. And what do you know? It pops up again. A mother of 4, Leah O'Toole, is found intoxicated and stumbling around near the train tracks at Clark Station. She says she's attending a detox center, so the judge reluctantly gives her, yep, you guessed it, the Probation Act. So, okay, let's just pull back for a minute from all these individual stories, because when you lay the whole week's docket out side by side, a pretty clear and, frankly, depressing pattern starts to take shape. And here's the pattern. Addiction is always the excuse. From Pauline O'Neill's old drugs debt to Leah O'Toole needing detox. What we're seeing is a revolving door where offenders with loads of priors just get a slap on the wrist. And who pays the price? The community, every single time. Whether it's a grandmother's life savings for bail or a beautiful road turned into a rubbish tip. And the main theme, the one thing that connects them all, excuses are always put before consequences. So, I've laid out the facts for you, straight from the court reports. I've shown you the pattern I'm seeing. But now, I want to hear what you think. It's time for you to be the judge.
Let's circle right back to that first case. Pauline O'Neill. 10 prior convictions. Caught red-handed on camera. But she's in treatment. She's trying to sort herself out. So, what's the verdict? Did she deserve the Probation Act? Was that justice being served, or was it a complete joke? Get in the comments and let me know.
Right. Let's wrap this up then. You know, every week we go through these stories, and every single week I'm left with the exact same feeling. It's this deep sense that the system itself, it's just not working. It's broken. When you really boil it all down, this is the one single thought that I can't shake. The system we have repeatedly prioritizes excuses over consequences. It doesn't matter if it's a drug debt or a privacy assessment, but the real question, the one we all need to start asking ourselves is, why do we let it? Why do we just accept this as normal?
And that's the latest from Stephen AI TV. Let's stay loud and proud.